Resurrection Man, Quantum Karma, Issue 1, Ram V writing, and Anand Radhakrishnan, if I'm saying that right, on the
Close
art.
enough.
So, yeah, this is a curious one. It's obviously kind of a weird DC property. I assume it might have been originally Vertical or Whalestorm or something back in the day.
I'm pretty sure it was Vertigo.
Yeah, that feels right, just based on what it is.
Yeah.
But I had a vague understanding of Resurrection Man. I think I read the first like 2 issues of the New 52 series back when it launched.
Mm-hmm.
So I know he obviously keeps coming back to life, and every time he comes back to life, he comes back with a new power. I don't think I knew, or maybe this wasn't the case in the New 52 book, but I don't think I knew that the power was always related to how he died, like before he went.
Yeah. That's a cool, if that's a wrinkle that Ramvi added, that's really cool. I like that.
I don't know if it is. I could see that have been in the original Vertical thing, but I don't know. I'm just sort of. It seems like something that might have been there, but Ram V was smart enough to realize that most people wouldn't know what Resurrection Man is. So the first page gives you a nice little refresher, a nice little rundown of who this guy is. And then it sort of gets a little bit meta because it's actually someone reading the comic book. And the opening scene or two is basically the idea that he has actually lived to an old age. He married into a family. He's got like stepchildren and a grandkid even now. And he's in a hospital bed dying, and the family's saying their goodbyes. His wife is saying, "You've brought joy to us all." And it's all just very this sad thing. But that night, the old man, pulls out his IV and whatnot and, escapes out the window to go die in a field because he doesn't want as much as this, the missing body will freak them out, him being a younger, healthier man in the morning will freak them out more. So he's like, okay, that life's over. I have to go and die. So he goes and dies in a forest. And then he wakes up, resurrects into the younger, I don't know what ages might be typically, but 30, let's say. So it's like, all right, so he's alive again. And this is obviously where it gets a little bit weird, and there's another voice starts talking to him, some guy in a red cloak, which pulls him into a space that's outside of time and space with lots of gears, and basically claims to be the original version of him, possibly from a different universe. And that I don't know, this got big and heady because it's Ram V, so of course it is. Yeah. It gets into this whole idea of what they're here for, and definitely it's playing with time. And then most of the issue actually is like, hey, we have to figure out how you're going to get to where I am. And it flashes back, and the rest of the issue is in New Guinea when he was a prisoner of war during World War II, and it focuses on this military guy who was running the prison camp. This Kagawa is his name, and it's the tail end of World War II, because part of the story is they hear that Hitler's is killed himself in Germany, so we're right kind of in that part of the war. And Resurrection Man talks about how he's not really been getting his powers recently. Something is strange there. It's not been working the way it's supposed to. And we also find out this bad guy is literally eats some of the prisoners. He's into cannibalism and says, we're going to feast. So some prisoners get taken off and cut up and cooked and whatnot.
So we're gonna feast. I was like, I hope that doesn't mean what I think it means. And then it meant what I thought it meant. I was like, oh my God. Okay, we're going there.
Yeah, I didn't jump to that conclusion. I just had to accept it when he said it. But it's a whole thing. Yeah. So Resurrection Man is the victim, and he is put into a burning pit, still alive, on fire. And when he wakes up, sure enough, he has fire powers. Right? He comes out with that ability because that's how he died. His powers are back. And maybe I missed something. I don't know if they were trying to tie something into the idea that whatever was blocking his powers was maybe tied to Hitler in some way, and it's because Hitler's gone.
Yeah, so you just reminded me because I was looking up Resurrection Man to find out the stuff, and when he came out. So Resurrection Man has only been around since '97. I thought it went further back, but
okay.
Anyways, yeah, it was Hitler had the Spear of Destiny, and that's how they kept the superheroes off of the board during World War II, which is actually kind of a smart way to do that. I think that's been the plot of a Justice Society book at one point.
It also ties into like a lot of the idea of Hitler going after the occult and things like that, stuff that they use in Raiders and stuff. So it kind of ties into all that mythology.
There was that whole group, and I forget their name off the top of my head. I used to know that of the Nazis that were out there looking for all that stuff, like for real.
The Nazis? Is that your playful term for Nazis?
Yes, the Nazis. So, but yeah. So once Hitler is dead and is no longer in possession of his powers kick back in.
We don't know who's got the spear. I think they say that's a mystery where the spear of destiny went, but that seems to have like unlocked Resurrection Man's abilities. And sure enough, he comes out with flames all around him, burns the entire camp to the ground, and then the ending is that when like the firefighters or whoever are going through all the rubble and stuff, they find someone who looks really bad but is still technically alive and breathing, and it's the bad guy. It's Kagawa, Sohei Kagawa. So this cannibalistic military dude seems like he's going to be a running villain of some kind. It's kind of excited to see where that goes, but there was a lot to take in here, and I did a bit of a disservice to it by reading it last. So when I was getting to those panels where there was just like a big paragraph of text, I'm like, I think I might have been better off reading this early just to like take it in better.
So I've learned that with Ram V. Don't put Ram V off until last, because if you're in a rush, you're gonna miss out. Yeah, so the stuff here with this guy, and it seems like, so in real life history, man, people don't realize how bad Japan was back in there and during the Axis powers. And they had their own type of camps that they did very terrible acts on. And I wonder if this is based in part on that, and almost like this guy is a personification of all the evil things that had happened.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's overseeing this camp. And I mean, he's eating people, and and it's almost as if now, when Resurrection Man got his powers back, it kicked something to him. So now they're at two ends of a line, right? And that they're almost like in the movie Unbreakable, right? Where if there's a guy that's unbreakable, then there's a man that has to be breakable, right? And I feel like here, because they talk about when the reason that the Kagawa is the way he is that his dad was very protective over him and never wanted him to be sick, and kind of sheltered him from the world. Where's all of that at? Because they get into it throughout. It's because he had only been born with a functioning lung. So his dad never wanted him to be sick, and he was catered to, and he never experienced things. So he got very cerebral, and he raised made his way up into the position that he's at now.
Yeah. There's a couple of details here. One is that Resurrection Man doesn't necessarily always remember his previous lives, so it's kind of unique that he does now. Also, this red hooded version that says, "I am the first of us. I am Sesha," he says his name is. "I'm the first of us," and he says that there's some entity he has sought his eye on this place and wants to end everything, right? Wants to end the universe and everything in it. I don't know if that's setting up that this Japanese military dude is going to somehow become this entity. Just because he said something about he who shall eat all of existence, and that word "eat" kind of stuck out to me on hindsight. Once we get this guy who's eating the prisoners, I thought, is that a intentional connection? This is still very up in the air, and all this like visuals of this like place outside of time, where it's all just gears of a clock, and it's all very complex. It does remind me a lot of when Ram V was playing with the idea of like the industry being one of the like the key things, like the green and the red. It kind of makes me think of that a little bit. Yeah. Yeah,
the Parliament of Gears, I believe that was called.
That's what it was, yeah. That was the name.
Yes. Well, and so here he says, "Welcome to samsara." So samsara in different belief systems, right? It says in Hinduism, Buddhism, and Sikhism, it's the cyclical nature of birth, death, and rebirth driven by karma. And the goal is to achieve liberation from the cycle through enlightenment.
Interesting.
Right. So that's a piece of, I remember when I got really into Buddhism when I was younger, that was one of the things is samsara and nirvana is that enlightenment and breaking of that cycle. So yeah, here, if that's what's happening, right? But it seems like the cycle here is beneficial to Resurrection Man, right? So I wonder if this guy will break that cycle, and that's why they have to, they need to keep that cycle going.
The whole idea of karma, though, really, obviously it's in the title of the book, but it definitely kind of feels like, we're getting this really villainous guy, and he's going to try and get away with a lot of things, and I wonder, like, with him being alive here at the end, is he somehow resurrected in some way? I know it's kind of almost lazy to say, is he just an evil resurrection man? But I do wonder if they're kind of maybe going to play with that a little bit. Or maybe we'll find out that the evil resurrection man is just another universe's resurrection man. Maybe it'll just literally be him, but from a different place. I don't know. But it definitely felt like they were setting up this Saragawa guy. Kagawa. It was Serai Kagawa, right? I'm trying to remember his name. Yeah. Kagawa. Like, Kagawa, I think it really feels like they're setting him up. And I think one of my favorite bits in the art in this book is actually that page where he's just talking to his soldier and he's smirking as he's saying that he wants to have a feast and whatnot. Because it's just so sinister and moody, and he feels like the most evil piece of shit, like, imaginable. Like, he feels more villainous than most comic book villains do, and he's just sitting at a table talking. And the art really sells that idea. And then, obviously, the art's really good because you also get those big, insane visuals of the, Resurrection Man on fire and being destructive, and that feels like almost like a karma thing as well. Like, okay, this place did all these atrocities, so he just, like, rises up and burns it all to the ground. Really good stuff.
He raises it because they said that they thought that it was an Allied bombing because of how destroyed everything was. So yeah. Also, Shesha in certain languages means remainder, right? So if that's what he is, he's the last one, right? So he needs to make sure the cycle keeps going,
right? And that's the Resurrection Man in red that takes him to the time place. Okay. Yeah. Interestingly, there's I thought it was just a cover that had no colors yet at the end for issue 2, but there's actually several preview pages that are black and white. I'm not going to look too closely at them. It does look like there's a Justice League on the cover, though, and it's a very mid-90s Justice League by the looks of.
There is Kyle with the full crab mask and Electric Superman. It is for sure. Yeah,
we're going full 90s next issue.
But also, this Jackson Butch GUICE that is doing the art. He's the original artist for Resurrection Man.
Really?
From back in the 90s.
Oh, that is interesting.
So the fact that Ram V is bringing him in that way, I think that's super, super cool.
Yeah, that is interesting. That makes me think that there's probably going to be some direct continuity with that original series. And I also think that this book definitely feels like it's setting up for this idea that each issue we're going to explore a different resurrection from his past. Like, so this was the 40s, maybe we'll get one in the 50s next issue, so on and so on.
Yeah.
Or maybe we're going to the 90s next because that's, we're seeing this 90s Justice League. Maybe we'll bounce around a little bit to whatever's relevant. Yeah. But I'm intrigued. Like a lot of Ram V books, like, there's enough cool ideas here that my inspiration has sparked. My imagination has sparked, rather, I should say. And I find it really fascinating. And that's one of the things that Ram V is really good with, is that he'll present a really complex idea, but he'll sort of give you all enough of the kernels to kind of get your mind going, kind of get excited by the possibilities, and just present it in a way that has like an aura and a mystique around it that feels larger than life. And it usually works quite well when Ram V does it. So it would be really interesting to go back and read that original Resurrection Man now, the Vertigo series. I wonder like how good it's considered. I don't know who wrote it, but curious all the same.
It was Abnett and Lanning, actually.
Really?
So,
okay, interesting.
Yep.
That could go either way.
Yeah, I'm also looking at the artist that works that's doing this with Ram V, and it looks like he works on a lot of the independents that Ram V does on. So like the blue and green.
That makes sense.
And the Death of Layla Starr. So I'm glad that they can work together here. The Vigil comes up as well. So but no, very cool. I'm excited. I like the way that Ram V addresses like almost like this modern mythology. He uses like real life events, right? So like in Swamp Thing, that whole back arc was centered around the Trinity explosion and what that created, right? And the new ideas that had come from it, and yet the Parliament of Gears and all this other thing. And yes, we can tell this really fun superhero story, but there's this way of creating modern myths out of it that Ram V just is so adept at doing.
I mean,
so I'm curious to see what.
Honestly, like I think his like his detective and his Catwoman, you could say that about. I don't think his Swamp Thing is a good superhero story, which is not a critique. I'm not saying it's a bad superhero story. I'm saying that it's not interested in being a superhero story. It's like that's him going full Ram V, and I feel like with New Gods, with this, with the Vigil, even like in Swamp Thing, I feel like he's really just spreading his wings and doing the type of storytelling that he's doing, and he's been allowed to do it, which is great. And like they've all been really good to amazing, frankly. So. I am all for this. Like, this is the sort of thing where if you just said, "Oh, Resurrection Man's getting a comic book," I wouldn't have been excited at all. But then you put Ram V's name on it, and I'm like, "Oh, okay. What are the ideas here?" Because he's always got ideas, and they're always fascinating to me.
Yes. Ram V's one of those writers that instantly that I don't care what it is. I'm like, "Oh, working on that? Okay, well, I'll definitely check it out." But it always ends up working to our advantage though too, because it's always something interesting to talk about. And I can't tell you when the last time there was a Ram V book that I didn't enjoy, right? Like they're not all like 5-star top of the line, but they're all good. Like going all the way back to Justice League Dark, so I wasn't reading that, so I only jumped on with his Catwoman, but I've not been disappointed since then. No, not at all. And this is cool. Like you said, it's Resurrection Man. That's cool. It's like a 90s, Vertigo character. And you're like, oh, we're working with karma and resurrection and cycles. And I'm like, I want to see what Ram V has to say about that.
Oh no, this is officially a Black Label book. They've not branded this as Vertigo. They've branded this as Black Label, which fair enough. But
yes,
I was curious there. I thought maybe it would actually still be called Vertigo on the cover, but it's not. All right, now very good. I'm excited to see this. I'm looking forward to issue 2. I think this is something that's going to get really thick with ideas as it goes on. So, what are you rating Resurrection Man Quantum Karma?
I'm gonna give this an 8.5.
I think I gotta go 9. Not even gonna justify it. I've said my piece.